perpetual transmutation of energy. Why is it so dim in here? It seems like a little bit darker than usual. I don't know if my lights are dim. Let's see. Can I get any more light out of here? It's a little dim for me. Let's see. No. Okay, it can get dimmer. I don't know why it's so dark. Oh well, we will make do as we can. How's it going, everybody? Nice to see you. This is what, week number 8 now, as we've been doing the 13 universal laws. Last week we did gender. This week we are doing perpetual transmutation of energy. The interesting thing about this law and some of the other ones is it's not considered a universal law by everybody. Me personally, I've always followed the Hermetic principles. Hermes Magistrate has been basically passing down these 7 Hermetic principles, which would be mentalism, which is my law 2, law of mind, polarity, vibration, no relativity, but gender, rhythm, and correspondence, no law of infinite compensation, no law of attraction, no law of perpetual transmutation of energy, no law of inspired action, but you got cause and effect. Now, the reason why in Hermetic law you don't have a perpetual transmutation of energy is because within Hermetic law you could think of vibration as a perpetual transmutation of energy, and you could also kind of think as cause and effect as a perpetual transmutation of energy when you combine it with the two, the way we've laid it out here. Now, my 13 is kind of based on the fact that there's like 12 of them if you go by, say, Kabbalah or something like that, and then there's these 7 Hermetic principles. The 7 and the 12 kind of have one overlap, which is mentalism and divine oneness, even though mentalism and divine oneness, depending on your interpretation of these rules, could be overlapping, guys, which is why I do 13. So the 12 main ones, which basically make up the formation of the mind of the universe, and then how all those things working in conjunction with one another creates the law of attraction, which is really the law of creation, because we are all one with creation. And I'm going to show you how all this works in just a second. And I have a whole bunch of different ways to talk about the perpetual transmutation of energy so you can understand how visceral it really is as a rule. But first, we're going to do the universal laws like we always do. So, law 1, the law of divine oneness, states that the universe was and still is one thing. It was asleep or inert or observing, however you want to think of it, but motionless, but there. And then one day, this nothingness, it woke up and it started having thoughts. Lines, circles, squares, things, interesting things. Now, this is not to say that physical things are pouring out of the ether or anything is going on other than an invisible nothing that you really can't even wrap your head around. It's nothing. It's oblivion. There's no physical color, sound. It's just an idea without form, without shape, without color. And from that formlessness comes ideas, which are still all formless. Okay? We don't get into a physical execution of the universe where I have a solid arm, because solidity, right? That's not one thing. Solidity is multiple things. Solidity, I could be firm, I could be soft, and that would really be like my density, right? So the density is really the thing we're talking about, which is an idea of, is it like super close together or is it super far away, right? So without having any physical anything, we just have the ideas, the concepts, the idea of a shape, the idea of a little bit of distance, the idea of 2 things, 1 thing, 3 things. Just idea comes into form, okay? Now, when the thing that was inert and was just observing, when all of a sudden it also becomes awake, it becomes polarized, which is why everybody on the planet is fundamentally polarized. We're always like, this way, no, that way, no, this. Well, that's because God itself, or the universe itself, however you want to think about it, is polarized. It is observing and doing nothing, and at the same time, it's taking action. You know, when we have a thought, it's an interesting thing. You have a thought, but that's not all that goes on when you have a thought. You have a thought, and you actually observe yourself having the thought. Do you understand how interesting that is? That essentially makes you two consciousnesses in one. You're having a thought, and at the same time, the consciousness that's having the thought, I'm actively thinking, it's also being observed. How am I thinking and observing at the same time? Yeah. Well, and because at the heart of everything, we are this observer. We are always this one observer. You know, just because we can move around, and I can push you, I could change this whole room around, I could throw a table up in the air, I could change it. But at the same time, even though that one part of me, which is the mind, is going to actively like pushing around, changing things around, there's still a part of me always that is just inertly observing everything that's going on. Okay? So we got this observer, and then we've got this, explorer who's exploring the mind, exploring the possibilities of the mind. Whatever motion it takes in its very first thought, you could call that the very first vibration. So, I've been talking about this a little bit like if I was standing here, and this is me, I'm in perfect balance, I've never done anything before. Granted, I'm not physical. I don't have a body, you can't actually see me. But as an idea, I'm the nothing, I am the nothing of the universe, and here I am. And then one day I'm like, I want to dance, and I move into a position. This position is the first vibration. There was nothing. Nothing. We were just nothing. Balance. Total balance. And now we're like, ah! This is it. We've taken a form, okay? So there are infinite of these different vibrations that you can get, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But each vibration, at the same time, creates a relativity. So if I'm out in this thing of like, dance mode, the relativity that would balance me from sort of leaning the universe forward, if you want to say, from leaning it in this direction, I'd have to go leaned in this direction with my hands back in the other direction. Or maybe that's better, right? So that I can be relatively balanced to the first position that I took. Every thought that we have is essentially taking us out of balance, because this is balance, nothing. Just straight observation. That is the balance that we are. And it's this sort of nagging mind that's like, well, what if this and what if that? Ooh, let's try that. Ooh, look at this, look at this, look at this. The observer is just sort of there constantly throughout it as things are just being sort of experimented with. But in order to find the balance to be that observer, the active mind has to balance its vibration with its relativity. And this is what we call gender, the vibration of a thing and its relative vibration. Those two things come together to form gender, which is a balanced thing. And gender, you don't think of it as like female or male or something like that. What we're talking about is that there's just two fundamental energies for the universe to have. And it's kind of just as simple as like left, right. Here you want some left, or here you want some right. And just because you're a lady doesn't mean that you only have feminine energy. You have masculine energy as well. Everybody's a mixed bag of these things. And I've talked about before a few times now that I'm a very feminine energy man. And that, not that I'm a tough guy, go out and be tough. But at my heart, I'm kind of nurturing and creative and a little flighty and whatever else. And I like women who are tough. Not that I like women who are men. I like women who know how to be a woman, but they have energy that counters my energy, which I know to be a little soft. And most people, they get a little like thrown off if they're female. Like they start going like, oh, I don't know, am I gay? Or like, what's wrong with me? No, just everybody's pulling from the same well, and there's only these two wells. There's this, real strength, solid, keep it as it is, observing, upholding the status quo. And then there's creative, flowing sensitivity to needs and change and sort of vision, sort of big picture thinking and smaller picture thinking. We need both in balance. We need that small picture thinking so that we can keep the things that we like and not, completely destroy the circumstances that give us a perspective to care about a thing in the first place, right? Because if we lose that, then okay, well, who cares if I'm a millionaire if there's no money anymore? I'm a millionaire. What does that mean? It means I have all the money. What do you mean? What's money? What does it mean to be a millionaire if there's no money? It doesn't mean anything for you. So these balancing energies work together to create that sort of illusion of the oneness that we came from. Because by virtue of this energy, which is a little over here, it just so happens that corresponding, that relative energy that's back over here, when you put them together, there's an illusory balance to this thing. And that's why people are actually always looking to partner. Hey, I want to get a wife and settle down, whatever. Granted, you don't want to be searching for all of your happiness and the completion of yourself in another person. But it is true that somewhere out there is somebody who's vibrating in the opposite way that you are, and the more so they are, the more you may be really into attracting them because they're filling the energetic hole that you are missing, right? So today we're going to be getting into the beginning of this guy, 7, 8, and 9, of perpetual transmutation of energy, inspired action, and cause and effect. I put these things in the 3 because they all kind of teach you within each other. The cause and effect is going on all over the place, as you can see. And something like the sleeping beast of the universe becoming an awake thing, that's polarity. It was asleep, now it's awake, and now we got polarity. So 1, 2, 3. Vibration, the relative vibration, the opposite vibration, that's the thing that brings balance and brings us back to that one thing. So now over here, when it comes to perpetual transmutation of energy, inspired action, cause and effect. There's energy to be used, and now there's action, and these two things are perpetually tracking the world along. And I mean, you can see it's already happening here, sort of the polarity, which is like the first vibration, vibration to the relative vibration, the opposite, and then we got the gender, and here we got gender, this is like the balance of the energy, and now we're going to continue to pull from that thing, we're going to get some inspired action. It's all cause and effect, really. But I draw the energy in the black with the little white in it, in the yin-yang, because from the nothing, black is the best sort of metaphor for it, even though it's not black, it's oblivion. It has no color, it has no solidity, it has no anything. It's just from where ideas came from, where thought came from, nothing. If thought, and everything is thought, came from nothing, then what would you call that? A well of infinite energy, potential energy, potential. This blackness is what bore the mentalism of the universe. So this is just the jumping off point for creation, from nothing came something. And now inspired action, we'll talk about this more when we get into that one next week, but inspired action, you think of more in terms of the physical world right now, where we are waiting for the right moment to capitalize on a thing. In the context of what I'm showing you right now, this is just sort of the brain of God, or the brain of the universe booting up, okay? So to call anything inspired is to kind of cheat in terms of perspective and interpretation. What I will say is inspired about the action that's taken here is that it's sort of like, it's just the necessary mechanical action. So it is inspired in a way. It is the baseline inspiration of, well, how are we going to do things? There's a really simple one that I like to show right here. When we look at black, white, and gray, and then we go over to the color gradient, because this is the patterning that you see over and over again. We need parameters, okay? So the one thing begets another thing, And now we have white and black. The white and black parameters immediately sort of invent this center piece, this idea of gray, a notion of a thing that's part the one thing and part the other thing, right? So right from the parameters, we have this trifecta created. As soon as you have the one and the other, this 3 is like an invisible number pops up out of nowhere. Gray is automatic. You don't want black, so now you have to have gray. And then a similar thing happens with the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, blue. If you got red and yellow, well, that automatically creates an additional color, orange, right? If you got red and blue, automatically there's an additional possibility, purple. Blue and yellow, there's an additional possibility, green. So this is actually some of the magic of what Tesla spoke about with the 3, 6, and 9. 3, 6, and 9 being magical numbers. You could take the whole color wheel and just go 1, 2, and here's the third answer. 1, 2, and here's the third answer. 1, 2, and here's the third answer. There you go. Magic 3, magic 6, magic 9. Because of these other existing ideas come these new ones, which is very much cause and effect and rhythm and all the stuff that I'm about to get to in 2 seconds. So anyway, this shows you one of the mainline basic patterns of the universe. 1, 2 with a middle with a gradient for the middle, and then from that established gradient, expanding out into different octaves. Okay, here's octave red, here's octave orange, octave yellow, octave green. But really, it's just a way to experience the bandwidth in between this white and black. We get a question? Oh, am I screwing up my audio? It's too tight? I'll fix it. I'll fix it. Okay. I'm warming up. I'm okay. Okay. I can handle it. I was in Los Angeles and I became a sensitive to the cold guy. Darn it! Oh, I gotta get over it. All right, I'm working on it. Okay. So, continuing on here, we've got our infinite energy coming from the nothing. We've got our inspired action, which in this case is just sort of the ipso facto math. And the brain of the universe is like, all right, here are our parameters. I'm going to explore this by virtue of different gradients and octaves, and I'm going to have a nice time. And this perpetual energy and inspired action, which is very mathematic in the beginning, begins the cause and effect pattern. I mean, really, it's already begun. But it begins to take off this cause and effect pattern, which creates everything in infinitum. And that's what we'll see in the next 3. These 9 are sort of the beginning of form. As we went through with like the colors, we can get down and get through all the colors with the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Once we get through that 9, what you see happens is it just repeats again. The established pattern goes on again. So once we got our cause and effect and we know how these things are climbing, we got rhythm. There are a whole bunch of rhythms that have already been made here. As we get to 10, like if you were in, what do you call it, with like a tarot card reader, and they were messing around with the tarot cards, they would read a 1 or a 10 similarly. New beginnings, something like that. Because for them, within the context of the tarot, we're all done. 1 through 9 was all we really needed. 10 is just like a second version of the 1. And then that's it. It stops at 10 because that's the rhythm. That's the idea of the capping of the cycle. Beyond that, we have correspondence. Correspondence is going up an octave or down an octave. We go in a spiral. Eventually, we'll come back around to the same point, but a little lower or a little higher, up or down, right? So correspondence, you don't need that. You don't need number 11 in a tarot card deck. The correspondence comes in laying down the cards. You lay down the cards and you're like, oh look, this card is corresponding with this card. You can actually lay out the rhythms and the patterns in the tarot. Tarot is about what's the rhythms, what's the pattern of the cards. So do I need a card that tells me about the rhythms? No, I'm going to see the rhythms. Do I need a card that tells me about the correspondence? No, I'm going to see the correspondence. And then also, do I need a card that tells me about the infinite compensation? No, because it only matters where. Where is it in the thing? I'm trying to learn about the important stuff, which is that 1 through 9, the body of the piece, where all of these things are happening. These very, very important fundamental changes in how the universe is thinking. And then it's just thinking in this same way over and over and over again. Now that's what we call the infinite compensation. Because this is all mind. This is all coming straight from a mind. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you know the answer? the idea for the chicken, the idea for the egg. How are you supposed to make a chicken if you don't have a blueprint? It's going to make the chicken come out of nowhere? A whole chicken? Every cell? The mechanisms of the electromagnetism and everything else that's governing how that chicken works? Idea comes before form. So, since we're working with idea, well, let's think about idea. Let's take that to its fundamental conclusion, right? If I'm lying in my bed and I'm sitting there and I can't sleep and I'm just thinking, if I just stayed there forever and could, is there technically any end to my thinking? Or can I just keep on thinking? Keep on thinking. Batman, Batman in green, Batman in orange, Batman in yellow, Batman in yellow orange, Batman in green yellow, Batman in blue, Batman, that's just Batman. I can just imagine all different ways to color Batman. We could do it tons and tons. And those are just what you're capable of. You know, you can follow what I was just saying, and you can go, I can see where this is going. Okay, we can make a couple adjustments. Batman, but he's a girl. Batman, but he's a girl, but he's in blue. Batman, but he's a girl, but he's in green. You know, their little variation of a thing, it just goes on and on and on and on. And anything that can be thought, because everything is coming from thought first, can take form. So there is infinite compensation. Literally anything that the universe can think about can and will be brought forth if it's of the interest, if it is in alignment with the love of the universe. And there's a very interesting thing there of like knowing that on some level, the fact that you're here and we're here, this is a momentary choice that eventually happens somewhere along the way in this inspired action. In the inspired action, the universe or God is like, circles, I like them. You know? And for one brief moment, as the circle is invented or whatever, it is loved so much that it is held into place forever as an idea, as a theoretical idea. And you too, you know, each one of our souls, the energetic form that we are coming to represent here, and it may seem so easy to measure, like, or complex to measure, like how tall I am and my face, but really Jesse's just an energy. You're just an energy. We're just coming through, and our energy is interpreting what's going on, and based on how we feel, which is probably more like, Jesse's shaped like a prickly star, you know? And because I'm shaped like a prickly star, certain things come over and I'm like, prickly, 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 I don't like that idea, I don't like that idea. And then maybe somebody else is shaped like a banana. They get hooked by all these ideas. Everything's great, they're always getting hooked away. And me, I'm like, no, no, no. It's just my energy. It's not specifically that this idea or that idea was meant to run up against me. It's that based on my unique energetic composition, I am pushing against or being pushed against or getting caught by or not getting caught by certain things because my energy is here. And it's really not so simple as, like, you know, it's like somebody who's damaged, right? Let's say somebody who's hurting children or whatever. This is where their energy, this is the interpretation of their energy. It's not that somebody is going to like teach them 2 + 2, hey, go do this thing. It's somewhere within their energy field is something that's making them interpret their communication with the world and interaction with the world in this way that's skewing their ability to see it as not good or harmful to the other person or harmful to themselves or whatever it might be. So lots and lots of infinite perspectives being made from all of this mind. So to wrap up the universal laws, we have the law of attraction, which, as I've said before, this is a very superficial way to look at things. To be attracting things is essentially to think that anything is separate from you or outside of you. And that's not true, because what's law number 1? All is one, right? All is one. So you are a grasshopper, you are God, you are the color red, you are the taste of strawberries. You know, every little piece, however you want to think of it, we're going to get into this in a second, you know, energy becomes physical, physical becomes energy, and on it goes. It's all one perpetually changing thing. So for us to properly think about the laws of attraction is to realize that we are the creator of the universe, that we're creating our own universe based on everything that we think and everything that we allow ourselves to believe is possible. And most of these things are formed when you're very young. You know, you come in, you look around, and you're paying attention to what your mom and dad are looking at, right? If all of a sudden baseballs started to like fly over in your direction while you were having a picnic, and your mom and dad looked up and they were like, oh my goodness, all these baseballs are coming, you know, you would look up too and you'd be like, I gotta get out of the way, there's baseballs coming, somebody's hitting all these baseballs over here while we're having our picnic. If your parents didn't do that, you wouldn't really know to do that. You'd get hit by some baseballs. You'd have no idea what happened. You'd just be like, oh, ow, baseballs. You know, there was no warning. We're watching what the others around us are doing and then monkey see, monkey doing. And this has been proved over and over again in lots of different scientific experiments where we will basically teach ancestrally, like through the DNA, mice and rats and even fish, you know, will remember something that was done to them in their family line, because we're recording these things for all time, and they will have an avoidance or a built-in sort of dislike for a certain chemical or whatever it might be, because they know that I associate with this. I've taught and learned to do this. So it's even crazier than a matter of, oh, I could come in and I could have some sort of trauma and that trauma could align me to whatever thing. You could come in and you could just already be aligned in that direction. Like I said about somebody who maybe has some negative you know, energy that he's working out in ways that we can't understand. You know, it might not even be a thing where we could point to something in this universe, because the energy is perpetually changing and moving, as we're about to say. So ultimately, what this comes down to is you are always creating your universe. When anything happens to you, good or bad, the best question you could ask yourself is, why did I choose for these circumstances to befall me? Why did I choose, okay? If you think of it, as most people do, is like, why did God do this to me? Why did the universe do this to me? Well, one, really difficult to take on the perspective of God, right? God, you know, like I don't know. I don't know why the nothing did something. The nothing obviously isn't, you know, getting my opinion on it. It's just doing things. But you know you. You know why you might do a thing to you or to somebody. And if you go, why would I choose this for me? You will usually be pretty close to getting the right kind of answer for yourself, because we are here as spiritual beings learning and growing, and we are perpetually transmuting this energy that we are from a low vibration with very limited perspective on what's going on in creation, gradually getting higher and higher perspective to what's going on, understanding our oneness, you know, understanding that every molecule in my body has been here for millions of years. You know, dinosaurs shared little pieces of the building blocks that are making up, you know, my legs and my hair and everything. It's all one thing perpetually going on. And if so facto, there's actually a lot more to that oneness, which is what we're going to talk about today all day. So do we have any questions about the basic 13 laws before we move on to specifically? Yeah.
Should everyone be attracted to everyone, or do you choose who you're attracted to?
So there's a lot of things. If you mean, okay, so you are coming into this universe somewhere in a circle. So like, let's look at this and we'll call this like a horoscope wheel, right? Okay, so based on where you're born will base where you end up in this wheel. Now, you could think of this as, what's that thing, the graviton? If you go to the fair, you go sit up against the walls, you know, you lean against the padded thing and they start spinning you. And then eventually the seats slide up as like all that gets thrown around. Well, what's kind of going on as we are spinning around the sun, spinning through our galaxy, is there is a crazy momentum going on. We can't feel it because it's like, you could juggle in a car. If somebody was driving, if they're not like driving erratic, you know, you sit there and you could juggle in the front seat right next to them because you are leveling out the momentum, the inertia kind of thing. You know, if you turn the wheel, all of a sudden, you know, the balls will go all over the place. You won't be able to do it. But though you can't feel it, there is momentum going in that car. So similar to the car where you can juggle, you know, and we can do all sorts of things on the planet's moving. The planet is moving like crazy. And if you really want to think about it, basically every time somebody's born or, you know, there's you know, a baby coming into existence, there's like that NASA, you know, the machine that they put the guy on where they spin him around the room, just like, whoa, whoa. That's going on, like, you know, sort of a roulette wheel of possibility. And you're going, whoa, where am I gonna end up? I don't know. And then Jesse ends up September 19th, 1982. I'm a Virgo, okay? I'm a little close to the air cusp. I'm somewhere in this vicinity. I'm a little further away energetically from these guys than I am from these guys. I'm totally relative, polarized to these guys. I'm relative to these guys in this way and that way, and I'm polarized with the guys on the other side of the map. My energy has been put through a little sifting machine, and I came out September 19th. So, when you say, can we be attracted to everybody? No. Because you are not going to represent every energy at once. You are going to represent one energy at once. There may be a plethora of people who, let's say you're right here, right? There may be a plethora of people who complement you in different ways. There could be people who are on your same birthday, and for whatever reason, within the energy that you have, people who are same birthday as you are, feels good to you. Could be a situation where the people a little bit to the right of you, who are like kind of close to your birthday, that they're the same for you. It could be that you only like people who are the complete opposite, total, diametrically opposed, you know, but could mean you like these people, you like these people, you like those people, you like those people, you like all those people. However, eventually you're going to get to pieces of this group that just don't make sense for you. Why should they? They have nothing to do with your energy. They're off here, and you're over here. And the energy that you have to learn, they don't really have it. You already know all the energy that they have. You know, you are looking to learn and expand and grow. So you're always looking to either reinforce what you have or to learn the things that you don't have. And yes? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Spiritual meditation, relax my nerves, you know, to feel calm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because I am a fire sign, I don't know. Maybe that's why my temper is dry and weird. And I want to know how can I use that energy, that vibration, that fire, and make it into something positive instead of something negative or just burns up inside.
So, if you're a fire sign, right? Fire sign, and granted, like, I'm an earth sign with like a little bit of air cusp, but by nature, I'm a fire. I am fire. I set things on fire. It's who I am. It doesn't matter that I was born on the earth sign. It has nothing to do with it. My fire is way more powerful than I don't know. It really has everything to do with you and you discovering yourself, and it's going, well, what does that mean? You know, in terms of, see, a fire sign will usually mess up this, inspired action, okay? Here, we need to cross the street. There's cars coming this way. There's cars coming this way. Do we cross the street when the cars are passing right in front of us? No. However, idiot fire signs, unconscious fire signs, we go, anytime's a good time to cross the street. Screw it, we're gonna burn straight through those cars, it's gonna be fine. And then we run right into the side of a car because we didn't use the timing, the cosmic timing. We just went, there it is, quick, Set it on fire. You know, it's kind of like if you're a sniper, right? And you're supposed to take out this guy, and he's coming, and he's in a Jeep, and whatever, right? And at a certain point, you finally see him. You get so excited, he's heading into your direction. He's finally close enough for you to shoot him. You immediately shoot him. You miss. He turns around. They can't shoot him again. Darn it. You should have waited until he got closer. He didn't get closer. So that's the problem with most fire signs. And the problem with most water signs would be, okay, he's coming. You want to shoot him? No, I don't know. I'm going to wait and see if he gets a little closer. All right, want to shoot him now? I'll wait to see if he gets a little closer. Shoot him now. No, this is a little closer. He's no longer in vicinity of you. You can't even shoot him. You waited too long. So the fire person set it on fire, and the water person didn't do it at all. They didn't let it go. Now, the idea is to come to balance with yourself. You know, really, if there's anything to learn from everything that I'm teaching you here, is that you are fundamentally unbalanced. The fundamental nature of the mind is imbalance. Because it's always kind of like, oh, how about this? And then it's like, oh, no, wait, balance back this way. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's trying to keep itself together. But because of that, its fundamental nature is just going to be like walking back and forth, changing where it's putting its pressure, changing where it's polarized. So we really want to be thinking about ourselves in terms of energy and frequency, and trying to break down where are our blocks, where are the things that are getting in the way of us being the best version of ourselves. You know, so if you're feeling like, hey, I'm really fiery and I keep kind of setting fire to these things, well, why is that? You know, what's the thing that's tweaking you over the course? Because the reality is, and we know that the balance is somewhere in the middle, right? You know, where does hot become cold? Where does cold become hot? What we're always looking for is a place where we're comfortable, the comfortable place, right? So you are fire. You know, you can't change your fundamental nature. Not to say that you can't. You can. If you wanted to. If you set your mind to it, you could. But you don't want to. Your fundamental nature is that. And that's good. Anybody who's ever made you feel bad about it didn't know what they were talking about. They were just projecting. Everybody has a unique nature that is meant to be on display, and we're supposed to be balancing each other by virtue of swimming in the same pool together and getting to experience all these energies together, right? So it is a tricky situation, because you don't want to lose yourself to, oh, well, I'm a fire, like, you know, because that can be a worse thing than that. You don't want to be the you know, like Jesse, I've been a sad sack every now and then. Like, you know, I get to a point where I feel like sort of frustrated by my big energy. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with this energy. Well, I guess nobody likes me. So you don't want to go and be like, I'm the fire, I'm not a fire anymore, I don't care. That's not the right answer. That's not what the fire should do. The fire needs to learn what everybody needs to learn. What is it that is setting me off? What is the difference that, if you're water, what's the thing that's stopping me from finally shooting the guy when they're in the right spot? Why am I waiting so long? And I mean, when you talk about that, right? Talk about the guys like coming into view, and the guy's immediately like, ah, I got him! And then the other guy's like, oh, waiting, and eventually he's like, oh, darn it, he's gone again. There's a big hole in the middle. It's huge. The balance place, it's humongous. We just have a hard time kind of getting there sometimes because we lock ourselves in to a certain energy. Like, oh, when this happens, I feel like this. Oh, when somebody mentions weight, I feel fat. You know, like, because I've always just kind of thought, and when that gets brought up, that's where my brain goes. When somebody goes, oh, that person's handsome, all of a sudden I wonder, am I handsome? Like, you choose to kind of think about different things. Or, at the right times, you choose to think, oh, you know, you didn't make those plans. So when everybody says those things, you don't have that experience at all. Or you know that everybody's beautiful, everybody is a unique, you know, part of the prism of God, and that someone is going to be attracted to, there's always beauty to somebody. There's enough perspectives that nothing is ever lost, nothing is ever wasted, So, I really would encourage you to look at your chakras. Like I know you're meditating. When we're moving through a typical meditation practice, we might visualize different colors for different sections of our body. Like as I have set up here, for your root chakra, you'd be in the red vicinity. You move up into your sacral, and you'd be orange, yellow, green, blue. Stones and even food and things in association with those colors, even looking at a color like that, will help to heal and balance those different energy centers, because those energy centers, through thousands and thousands of years of the Vedas and various people looking at these things, have come to be associated together. So say you aren't really being true to yourself, or maybe, in the case of a fire thing, maybe your communication is hostile, and you're not communicating very well. You might be looking for a blue stone that would be giving off some beautiful, sacred, geometric patterning that was reinforcing proper communication. And I don't know what that shape is, I'm not that smart, but, maybe it's some sort of dodecahedron, whatever, but in this shape of this structure, and a beautiful stream, is able to start coming out of your throat as you start. And when you connect to those things, maybe you start to see that, I had been stopped from speaking when I was younger. Or I had been given too much of an opportunity to speak when I was younger, and not enough people told me when I was wrong, and I need to listen better. The lessons are there once we start to become conscious of what it is we're looking for in the first place. It's impossible to figure this stuff out when you have no idea what to look for. It's like if you told your friend, you were like, "Oh my God, can you go find my favorite thing?" And you could tell them where it was. You'd be like, "Yeah, it's right in the parking lot behind Tranquility Within." And they're like, "Okay." But if they don't know what your favorite thing is, it doesn't matter that they know where your favorite thing is. I don't know what it is. Is it that car? It could be anything. It could be anything. You have to know. You have to have a thing. So what are you thinking now? You're thinking, hey, my energetic body is out of whack. I need to start getting to the bottom of in what ways it is. And as you meditate and you open up your chakras, feel, when you're sitting there, feel the energy. When you go, I'm opening up my first chakra, my root chakra, and I'm picturing some red, you'll see what that feels like. Then you go up to the second one, see what that feels like. I remember when I went to my throat chakra when I first started meditating, it always felt different, very different. Oh, yeah. Oh, when we did the guided meditation? Uh-huh.
I got to that far.
Mm-hmm.
I went through all of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got my bracelet and it broke, but I don't feel like I need it that much anymore.
Mm-hmm. Usually if it breaks, that means that energy that needed to go somewhere went into the beads, and then the energy said, let's get out of here. Because that's kind of a thing. The universe is trying to help us. So things like that, if the bracelet breaks, I always go, that's how it was supposed to be. That was, yeah.
So, the bad vibes,
Mm-hmm.
I get that from people. And it's hard for me to just stand there and take it,
Mm-hmm.
So I just decide to walk away or just say no,
Mm-hmm.
turn away. And I guess that can make people feel like I'm being rude or I'm being mean to them or don't care about them or I'm leaving them, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. It's just my way of protecting my own energy.
Yeah. Well, when you're an empathic person, you can pick up a lot of things from other people. The real lesson here is, what we were talking about the oneness. It's observing, right? It's just observing. That's who you want to be. That's who I want to be. I don't want my mom and my dad to say something to me, and I'm present for their words, and I'm interpreting their words in measurement of me. I want to be present and observe what's going on, but not really be there to intellectualize and feel it. And it's hard to kind of let yourself off the hook of that because you feel like, well, I'm supposed to get the measure of the thing. But no, you're not, because they are incapable of measuring you or your life. There's not a single person on this planet who is capable of measuring you consciously, knowing what you deserve, how far you've come, if you've worked hard enough, if you should get more money. Like, there is no one but you. You are the best person to determine that, okay? So that is neither here nor there. It doesn't matter what anybody says to you. Everything anybody says to you is complete and total projection, because we are creating our own universes. You're creating yours, I'm creating mine. So can I give you an interpretation on your universe that's outside of myself? It's impossible. I can't do anything without interpreting you through me. It's always projection. So if my mom told me that I should never do blah, 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 blah because X, Y, Z, and I'm gonna go to hell, and I see you do it, I can't help but go, you're gonna go to hell. That's the only thing in my brain. When I see that, I was told, go to hell. And then I say it. You know, our moms, like our moms can't help that their mom said something to them that went something to the effect of X, Y, Z. And then when they're reminded of that thing, they're like, oh yeah, my mom told me this wasn't important. I want to remember this. And then they repeat it to us. And that's it. It is literally that. And there are so many people on this planet who are avoiding the same things that their parents avoided, and they don't even need to. There's no need. Their parents have fear-based ideas about a thing. It was never meant to affect the child. But we got to protect our children, and I really like the best and worst parents in the world are the parents who love their children so much that they have decided they are going to sculpt the landscape for their child so that their child knows where their time is worth putting. No, 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 no. I already did that, Davey. That is not a place you want to go. Maybe Dave really wants to go to that place. I had issues with my mom all the time where, she's so wise, so together. I mean, my mom really, she would just wear it as a badge of honor, how together she was. And she knew, I'm together, I've put together a great life, and people are happy and healthy generally. I think I know what I'm doing. And you know what? She's not wrong. She's not wrong about it. But she is wrong when she comes up against my heart. And when my heart says, no, I don't think that, I think this. She was perfectly right up until the moment she went, no, 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 it's not like that, honey. I know, I've been around a long time. Sorry, Mom, I don't care that you've been around a long time. You're an old idiot, okay? And I see this with my new young baby eyes, and I see it like this. And when we let our moms and our dads actually change how we think of that thing, we have our fresh perspective on it. And when they go, oh, no, 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 it's this, and we accept that, the whole world shrinks. And this is what we've been doing to each other for forever. We just kind of keep shrinking the world. And a lot of it's like a little jealousy. It's like, well, if that person succeeds, then what is that going to say about me? So I better go tell him, don't bother, Jeff. It's not worth it. And Jeff's like, yeah, he's right. Don't bother. It's not worth it. But really, it's all about protecting ourselves, protecting our fragile egos from anybody else who might come along and usurp us and do better than we could do. And in doing that, we're actually just kind of holding each other back perpetually. It always seems like we're taking care of each other. It's like, hey, come on, careful there, Dave. But really, we're not allowing any sort of aggressive progress because it kind of frightens us all. Right? So I want to move into the actual perpetual transmutation of energy today. This is law. And I'm going to start by saying energy is forever moving into form, through form, and back into form. That's energy. So energy, and then form, and then energy, and then form. So if in this real world, energy is always moving into form, and the only idea of form that we have is actually a transformation of energy, what does that prove right there? The mind is creating everything. We don't need any physical anything. There is no physical anything. Energy is the physical everything. Okay. We tend to see things like having like a beginning and an end, but as we can see with this thing where it's energy moving into form, through form, and back again, right? So when somebody dies, that's the same thing. It's the energy moving through form. It's not the end of energy. That energy came into the new thing, it went around, and then it died, and now it's back, it gets transformed, the body gets pulled back into the soil, the energy gets, they say that the body gets a couple grams lighter. There is a transformation of the energy that goes on over and over again, and you can see it in the physical world all the time of this perpetual transmutation. And ipso facto, as above, so below, the same thing is happening with the energy that makes up our minds and our bodies. So you can think of like, separation to life, to death, to reincarnation, to reconstitution. Now you got a new life, and it continues on. Energy cannot be destroyed. Everybody knows that. Energy can't be destroyed. And energy is the thing that's becoming the physical things, and then the physical things become the energy things, and they come back to physical. So are we living in a real world, a real physical? No, it's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. We're living in a world of perpetually transmutating energy that becomes form and out of form over and over and over again. Energy becomes physical. Let's see. So there's a great quote from the Bible. Oh man, the story of Job in the Bible. This is my least favorite story. I've actually finally come to really appreciate it and get like a lot out of it now. But when I was younger, thinking of Job, I mean, if you don't know the story of Job, essentially he's just this guy that does everything right by God, and God screws him anyway. And you're just kind of like, what the hell? This guy did everything God asked him to do, and he's just like, meh. But it was amazing. I mean, and I guess over the years, as my perspective changed, and as spiritually as I grew more, and I was able to kind of understand why that story kind of upset me the way it did. And really, it comes down to this little quote that he says. At some point, he says, "Lo, the things I fear have come to visit upon me. The things I fear have come to visit upon me." Energy is perpetually transforming. Okay. Things are inherently polarized, right? So what does that mean? We're picking a direction. That way, that way. So even if you're not conscious, even when you're on the smallest scale of any issue, you're choosing, okay? You're making a little choice to the right, a little choice to the left. Now, this is going to continue to grow, this energy. Doesn't matter, left or right. You make a choice. You feel this way, okay? That imbalance, because it's an imbalance. We're one thing, and now we've got a mind for something else. It's always inherently about coming back to balance. So as far as we might get off in that direction of like, eventually, something brings us all the way back around again, okay? So, when we are, like case in mind point, I love my ex-wife very much. I have 4 beautiful children with her. And really the problem with our relationship was I loved her too much to break things off with her. She didn't she didn't deserve that in my mind. I hated the idea that I was going to hurt somebody who didn't do anything to receive this, right? But unfortunately, when I made the choice to marry somebody who I didn't exactly feel like, this is it, like I wasn't making the choice because it was what I wanted. I was making the choice for a lot of honorable reasons, but not exactly the right ones. Well, I made my choice, right? To not choose what would ultimately make me happy. That choice, that energy keeps rolling along, rolling along. Now, signs of that energy is going to come up. I'm going to all of a sudden find myself one day having a fantasy that, oh, what if my ex-wife passed away? Like, it would be positive because I'd be free of the relationship. And now I'm having thoughts of, oh my goodness, I just thought about my person dying. Oh my God, what have I done? I'm a terrible person. This is a sign. I should be listening to what is happening in my brain. I feel stuck, and it's starting to really poison me. This decision I made of, I don't like this, it keeps coming up, keeps coming up, keeps getting me. Eventually, if I don't change my mind about how I feel about this whole thing, it is going to blow up in my face. And it is going to blow up in my face the worst ways imaginable the longer I wait. Because all of that energy that I have of how bad it could be will eventually have time to manifest itself. So when Job said, "Lo, the thing I fear has come to visit upon me," that's what I said for the first 2 years or more of breaking up with my wife. Oh, the things I fear have come to visit upon me. I was afraid to get a divorce, that, to hurt her. I was afraid to hurt her family. There were so many things that I was deathly afraid of. And because I couldn't look at them, eventually they just came pouring into my world all at once. I couldn't stop it. Lo, the things I feel have visited upon me, the things I fear. There they are, all of them at once. And crazy how these things happen. And I see now that it was all really fundamentally the ways I felt about those things, the idea of my traditional sort of family being non-traditional really freaked me out. If I had started to really change my fundamental feelings about a non-traditional family at a time when I had recognized that, I don't know, maybe this relationship's not going to work, I'm having some dark feelings about it, that I wouldn't have had to attract all these things in, because those energetic blueprints wouldn't have been there. They wouldn't have been there. I would have transmuted the energy of, oh, I want out of this relationship and I'm scared that I'm not going to be happy. I would have transmuted that to, hey, you're doing the best you can, she's doing the best you can, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but maybe, whatever, who knows? I could have changed my energy, changed my vibe. If it was the right thing that was convincing, that wouldn't really have been the right thing, because really, fundamentally, at the end of the day, I didn't feel like she was the one. And I do believe that there are sort of matches made in heaven. And I didn't even allow myself to think of a girl who would be like that, because I was nervous to think of one and then I wouldn't get it. I was going to think of the best person ever, and then I wasn't going to get him. I'll just not think of them. And I'll be happy with whatever I get. I'm not going to imagine the greatest person in the world so that the universe can take them away from me. And if you've lost any friends, I lost my best friend, Crystalline, right before I was 21. When the universe takes away important pieces of your life like that, it can be a bit of a thing. Okay, so continuing on here, and what do we got here? For perfection, right on track. So this kind of continues right with what we were talking about right here. Energy, as we say, becomes physical, and attracting is creating, and it's happening all the time. Okay, we have attracted the family that we were born into based on things that we wanted in the previous life. In our previous life, from people that we were with, or experiences that we had, whatever it is, the situation, the circumstances of how we've been born, where our interests lie, who our friends are, all the people around us, we chose this. They talk about this in the Law of One material, which is some channeled material, but there's plenty of places to get a decent perspective on how this goes. Dolores Cannon has written some wonderful books called The Convoluted Universe, and she's a hypnotherapist who brought people into the place, the Akashic plane, which is where you go in between life and death. And in between life and death, you have the totality of the universe or God's knowledge. And from the perspective of knowing everything, you judge yourself, right? So I know what it was like for my brother when I was a teenager and he was little and I was teasing him. You know, I know what that was like. I feel it exactly. And now from the perspective of total consciousness, I go, oh, Shane, I'm so sorry, man. That really wasn't nice what I did to you. Maybe in the next life, such and such will happen, and then like, you know, I'll end up driving you around for a whole year, and I'll make it up to you. Like, you know, I know you're probably gonna have a rough time in your life, and I'll be there during that time because I should have been there in this other life, and I blew it, and I really, really, really feel that now, and I want to make sure that you and I can get to the same place by the time we finish the next life. Oh, absolutely. So this is the thing. You are everybody. Essentially, like, if you've ever done one of those things where you fold up the paper like a bunch of times, and then like what you cut, and they go la la, like, and you have a whole bunch of people and they're all holding hands. That's really what's going on, except it's this invisible thing of this consciousness that woke up, and then at some point the consciousness began dividing itself so that it could experience itself. It's like, ooh, me. If I had another me, then we could talk, we could hang out, it'll be a lot of fun. So this sort of division, which you see in, well, you can see it right here. This is like how the aura goes over the body, but this is very much a shape metaphor for all of creation. And I have a little drawing of it right here as well. So what's happening in the center, right, we've got like a center point that's infinitesimal. You know, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. And it blows up. So, and initially, it's sort of, it's really close. Like, you can kind of see these moves when you do, it was Qigong. So if I'm starting, my fingertips are the point, right? So as I go up, now the points are gonna go get further away from each other, okay? They're gonna get further away, further away, further away. Now they're gonna reach their furthest point out, and now, up, we got it. Let's get back together. And then all right back to the center. This is the journey of consciousness. Expansion, experience everything, come back together, come back to understanding, right? So, within the context of, and it's funny too, because you can kind of think of this shape as like, you know, you're the creator. So you put out the thought that you want, and then you collect it from the universe. You know, it really is this sort of thing of the butterfly effect. What about it? Oh yeah, or an apple. If you cut an apple right in the center, an apple is really cool. You can put an apple right over your body as it's called a torus field. So, you know, if you put the apple, like my stem is coming out right here, my auric field extends very much like the apple, where it's coming out of the side of my head, and it goes around, and then it's tucking up into my root chakra, just like underneath the apple. It's got like a little bud underneath there, right? So yeah, and there's, these shapes are crazy, fundamental over and over again. Mathematics and whatnot, you can see all of these sort of things in fruits and various things, which a fruit is a really good one too, because you think about in terms of yourself forming your body. There's a great book called The Field. And the field demonstrates how there are energetic fields that are governing things like you would not believe. And even when a baby's born, the first thing that shows up is this energy field that the baby builds its body in. There's a field that is around the fetus, and the field is apparently the thing that is giving the form and structure and the information to the fetus, who's using the signals from the field to, okay, put those cells there, put the bones over there, put that over there, and it's getting its information from outside of itself. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? The idea. And the idea is actually literally sitting in the field. And to this day, the field that you grew in is still there. It's just now bigger, and it's this big apple that's your energetic field. But your physical body came right, like grew right out of that idea for you. Okay, so yeah, I like the way that they said this. This continues just kind of what I'm saying with Job, lo, what I fear has become. Whatever you think will take the most appropriate shape available. So this is kind of that Ghostbusters moment, you know, where like Zool was like, choose your doom. And he's like, oh, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Whatever you are thinking, you know, like somebody could say, Jess, that's not true. If I thought of having a car accident tomorrow, that doesn't necessarily mean I'll have a car accident tomorrow. You're right. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll have a car accident tomorrow, because whatever you think will take the most appropriate shape available. Perhaps the energy just isn't really there for you to have a car accident. Perhaps you'll run into somebody on the sidewalk and bump your head. Perhaps you'll just drop your computer on the floor because you hit your hand on the counter. You'll have some sort of calamity that energetically is similar to the notion you had about getting in a car accident, but not quite. Because what did I say? It's not that Jesse came down and was like, okay, he's going to be this tall, it's going to be this, and he's going to like this kind of stuff and that kind of stuff. I was just an energy. My energy has formed me into this shape and the things that I like and who I am because of the way that I was attuned, right? So similarly, whatever the most appropriate place for the energy to go, and it doesn't have to be on the nose of where you're thinking, because just like I'm not exactly shaped like Jesse on an energy level, there's a lot of different ways that I might have expressed myself depending on things. There's a lot of different ways that a thing, an energy that you have, can express itself. Sure. Yes, the best thing that you could do in general, because look, I mean, this is like kind of like conclusion stuff here, but you have to observe who and what you are. You are a natural observer, and that's your fundamental state, who then got creative, and you're polarized. But now you're on a planet with millions of people who are this one creator, and polarized in various ways. So does it behoove you to argue with yourself? Right? Like if you could legitimately see your classmates like for what they are, to see your teacher for what, I'm you. I'm just straight up you. Why would you ever want to argue with me? Like, we're just going to get to the other side and you're going to be like, oh, sorry, I forgot for a minute that you were me. And I made you feel bad. I don't know why I did that. What a dummy. You know? So when you start getting down to the thing, it's like, oh, I can't hold a grudge on my mom. She's me. Am I really going to hold a grudge on me? Like, I just want everybody to be done holding a grudge on me. Apparently, the only way that I can do that is to stop holding a grudge on everybody else, is to stop taking a polarized position and to take a more neutral standpoint where you're seeing that everything has its place and, you know, balance within all things. Live and let live. Everybody is uniquely expressing themselves, right? What was the original question? How do you want to behave? Yeah, so you want to behave from a recognition, first and foremost, of your own polarity. I am polarized. Nobody is bipolar, okay? They just call you bipolar when people don't like the taste of it, when you feel something, you know? Oh, and all of a sudden you felt something, and you're bipolar. You scared me with your powerful feelings. That's it. You have powerful feelings. And the polarization of those feelings happened. You know, there is two rights to every side, right? Like, so let's see, a Democrat and a Republican. Typical Democrat might love to say that this isn't true, or a typical Republican might love to say that this isn't true, because so many of our Democrat-Republican partisan friends, they like to minimize other people's positions. But if you're taking a centrist standpoint on what's really going on when we're having this conversation, which is why when, you know, a Democrat calls a Republican racist, he's like, what are you talking about? I'm here about fiscal responsibility. You know, they're having very different conversations. The Republican is of the mind that government interference has been shown to be not so great, and that we tend to squander our money when we're paying for programs and all this stuff, and that basically like the libertarian idea of sort of complete personal freedom for yourself so that others can also have complete personal freedom for themselves is sort of the rating ideology for the Republicans. A Democrat would basically say, hey, that's well and good, but we gotta try something, and we're stuck here with this system as it is, so let's give it a try. So the Democrats are always going, hey, let's give it a try, using this system to do something, and the Republicans are always going, I really don't think that's a good idea, giving this system a try to do anything. Every time we do, it just gets worse. Both arguments are perfectly reasonable arguments. None of them have anything to do with anybody being bad or evil, or there's truth to both of these things. A middle answer of, hey, we gotta try something. Well, what should we try? We should try the things that are the least partisan, the things that are the bipartisan things, the things that we all want clean air, we all want clean water, right? There's no reason why we can't be moving in the direction of that thing. And that's the Democrats who want to try something, and the Republicans who are maybe going, I really don't think whatever, but hey, I can agree, that is something we need. We need clean water, we need clean air. So that's where you finally get to the place of like, okay, well, let's work together and we'll move ahead. But from that partisan standpoint, you know, these people want to take away my freedom to think and do what I want to do, or these people are infringing my ability to think and do what I want to do. That's the we're inflamed and we're fighting standpoint. But there's also a more reasonable, okay, this is where I'm coming from, this is where you're coming from. And fundamentally, most of the time, the person's always right. There's no wrong. You know, even if you get to something as terrible as like white supremacy, there's no white supremacist on the planet who believes in white supremacy because like no reason. Like they all have a reason. They will tell you their reason. They will explain to you how in this way or another they feel that their rights are being infringed, that things are being taken away from them. And the other person's like, you're out of your mind. You know, but it doesn't matter because that's what they believe. They believe that. So by sitting here going around punching Nazis, we're not really getting anywhere as long as the contingent of the Nazis who remain, they actually really believe that something's hurting them, that they're being affected negatively. And it's not until we go over to them and approach the conversation and, okay, I hear that you feel like you're not being taken care of as well. If we approach everybody like, hey, I want to make sure you get taken care of and I want to make sure you get taken care of, then what's the problem? If we're taking care of the black supremacists and the white supremacists and the every supremacist, whatever, they're all taken care of. They're not going to kill each other now. There's no reason to, when we sit there and go, oh, I don't like your idea, I'm going to starve you for any, I'm going to starve. What we really do is we create starving animals, desperate people who don't have any outlet for the things that they feel and the ways that they feel that they've been subjugated or taken to task. So it's a double-edged sword. So let's see, whatever you think will take the most appropriate shape available. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. We talked about that. I did a little thing here on my board, which was just nice, simple, and fun. But just going, you know, we start with a circle, and then we go a triangle, and then we go a square, and what's that? Circle, triangle, square. Perpetual transmutation of energy. We got red, and then we got orange, we got yellow and blue. It's the perpetual transmutation of energy. What does a square mean? Like just... Well, it's funny. There's a lot of very esoteric, interesting ways like to look at these shapes, think of these shapes. Fundamentally, when you get to all shapes, circle is female, and then all of the other shapes are male because they're all representing hard angles. If you look at the flower of life, which I don't have a good drawing, a full drawing of it here, but I have a small drawing of it here. So like this is like the beginning of the flower of life. You see I just drew it like a little flower right there. So you can add a whole bunch more circles there. This would be, like this is some part of the flower of life. This would be like a leaf from the flower of life. As you build that together, oh sorry, what was the question again? Oh yeah, what does the shape mean? So when you're doing all of this, this flower of life creates all of the angles for the female form, okay? Which are these bendy, you know, like a lady, you go, ooh, and a guy, you might go, eh, it's a guy and a lady. You know, we're just metaphorically signing girl, boy, right? But that is kind of what it means. What does a square mean? Square means boy. Circle means girl. And then there are various versions of some of these shapes. So when you do this together and you make a bigger version of this, it creates all these points. You see, I got 1 point there, I got 1 point there, I got 1 point there. From that point right there, I can go bop, 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 and I can make a perfect triangle, right? So you can perfect math from a whole bunch of circles like that, all put together, which is called the flower of life. And from the flower of life shape, just plotting the different points on the graph, and like we have some of these at Tranquility Within in the front, where they have the flower of life, and you have it set up with the stones so that you can put the stones on the bridge, the different cross points, and create stars. You know, the Star of David. You know. My brain's blanking out on different shapes that you create, but different energetic patterns that all fit within the flower of life. I mean, there's like a big version of the flower of life that's like a 3D thing where superimposed within it is just like every variation of possibility where you could put like a point on a map. And I mean, this is just the whole totality of creation. But if you're looking at things of like, okay, there's a male energy and a feminine energy, and these two energies come together. And then I'm looking at the flower of life, and it's all circles and circles. But going in there, I could draw lines in between the circles, and I would create this like house, foundation, straight lines. It's those two things in harmony. It's the bubbles are making everything, but then there's also points created by all the bubbles. If you go to the center of each circle and you map out different points, you're getting the full breadth of everything. So yeah, I think square as masculine, and shapes in general as masculine, it would be the best thing to think. However, there are more ways to think about squares in various terms, and in terms of numbers, and sitting there with a circle, a square, you know, this has 3 points, this has 4 points. Very, very simple, but when we're talking about simple ideas and the idea of propagation and the way math works, all this stuff, there's a lot of interesting stuff. It's long subjects with somebody who is smarter in terms of mathematical terminology than I am. Because if I was going to, like, I understand most of those concepts, but I would just have to write down every little bit of terminology so that I could tell you what it is that I know. Because I'm just like, aha, I understand that. And then I move on with my life. But for teaching this class, I can't do that. I have to go back and go, okay, let me get it all together so I can come and explain it to everybody. All right, so we're getting to the end here. Let's see. Oh, and I was just going to say the last thing of, you know, circle, diamond, circle, triangle, square. Also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's a better example of the perpetual transmutation of energy than counting? You keep counting, perpetual transmutation. Do you have to stop counting ever? Nope. Yeah, right. An infinite amount. All right. So, transformations. See the chart of consciousness, low to high. Okay, so I wanted to give you like some example too of this perpetual transmutation of energy, and I pulled up a couple little things that I thought would help a little bit. So, thinking about this energy that's transforming, I was going to mention this towards the end, but I'll say, you know, higher vibrations cancel out the lower ones. Okay, so there have been actual measurements where people are having different feelings, and they'll see like approximately, like, you know, on these various machines rating, you know, how harmonic or what sort of frequency it comes out of for sadness or happiness, whatever else. And the sad, they're low frequency. These are low frequency things. Like how close the bandwidth is together. So low frequency would be further apart. High frequency would be closer together. No, it's the literally energy. Everything's vibrating, right? So it's, so if you're thinking about death, you're vibrating like. If you're thinking about life, you're thinking, high frequency, low frequency. And like going up a scale, we might think about like on the lowest scale measured, so the alpha, omega, and this is different wavelengths, alpha wavelengths, omega wavelengths. So, on the low hand, we'd start with shame. Go up a little bit, guilt is a little better. Apathy is a little better than that, not really caring. Grief, being hurt, a little better than that. Fear is a little higher than grief. Desire is higher than fear. Anger, higher than that. Pride, next up. Go to courage. Now we go to neutrality. We're getting into a much higher place. Neutrality has like a $250 frequency on this omega alpha scale. Shame had a 20. So neutrality, and we're at 250 versus 20 for shame. So just being neutral, not feeling anything, way higher vibration than reacting in anger, reacting in shame, fear, any of those things. What's better than neutrality? Willingness. Willingness. I'm willing to hear the people who yesterday maybe I didn't want to hear, but it's okay because I'm just observing. And I don't need to be affected by the things they say, what they do. Their energy doesn't have to affect me. I'm willing. I'm not afraid. I have courage, right? What's better than willingness? Acceptance. I'm willing to consider it. Okay, I consider it. I will consider it. I accept it. Better than that, reason. Acceptance is, okay, you put it upon me, I accept. Reason, well, I've been looking and thinking, and here I've come to a better conclusion. Empathetic. I've thought, I feel, I'm sensitive, and how about this? Up a little bit more. Love. Nice and simple. Higher than that, joy. Higher than that, peace. Higher than that, enlightenment. Right? These concepts that are beyond the thing. And what is enlightenment really? Enlightenment is just, you're me, I'm you. Why do I want to hurt you? That would just be hurting me. I don't want to hurt me. Let's not be crazy anymore. And I'm polarized. I'm constantly thinking I think it's this way. And then I learn more and I'm like, oh, maybe it's this way. Then I learn a little more. I'm like, oh, maybe it's this way. Let's stop. Let's just not do that anymore. And just recognize right now, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not this right-left thing. And I got nothing to worry about. It'll all find its nice balanced place. So that gives you a little bit for emotion, right? Similarly, and I'm just going to kind of show these for a second, but this is like little diagrams I have here on my phone. This is a hexagon. So like, you see a circle on a hexagon, like if we're looking at a clock, similar to how we did the horoscope over there, right? Two triangles on top of each other, a triangle posed like we did here with the gender, the balance. So all of these things is a hexagram. We got a heptagram, right? So these are all different ways to sort of experience the wheel, experience that feminine twisting spiral with points. And we're making nice sharp lines, we're making squares, making stars, whatever it is. They're all kind of star-like based on where you end up. And it's really like a matter of like, I'm on this part of the horoscope, and then I go over here, and then I go over here, and then I go over here, and over here. And you just keep making this debris pattern as you're like, I'm flying over here and I'm flying over there, and really you're polarizing yourself. Not completely, because polarization would just be from there to there, but a little bit of an angle now, and then you're like, okay, I'm polarized over there, and then we'll go a little polarized over here, and then we'll go a little polarized over there, and then we'll get a little polarized over there, and now before you know it, we've got a pattern that's repeating over and over with one another. So this is, when I went on my first big trip of ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine that grows from a vine in Peru. One of the first things I saw was this sort of perpetually changing shape. This thing that was like filling up its space in all different ways. And it was just kind of like a circle. I remember it almost looked like, what is that thing, like a Furby? He was kind of like a little owl, right? A little Furby, right? And it was just, but it was taking up this sort of oval shape, and it was just moving. It seemed to be like expanding and contracting and like just very subtly. And I just watched it as it was getting more and more kind of complex. And this was, to me, a communication of the beginning of consciousness, as consciousness was just sort of messing around. It's like, oh, look, how about this? How about this? Ooh, nice. So pretty. And this, when you see this, all these shapes, we can go around a circle and we can make it filled with lines, we can make it filled with less lines. It's all just where are we going to show up on the outside of this circle. So that's more perpetual transmutation, right? Now, moving aside from that little bit of perspective, I want to give the perspective of energy is always changing, and energy is also idea. Ideas, we can't see what the idea is at the time for the future. So the Old Testament says, eye for an eye. You hurt me, I hurt you. New Testament says, turn the other cheek. To an Old Testament reader, turn the other cheek is like, what? Nah, they did the thing, now I get to do the thing too. You say, no, turn the other cheek. And they're like, that doesn't even make any sense. But it does. And as we develop our perspective and we get a lighter and lighter, higher perspective, very, very soon we're like, yeah, you know what? It would be better. It would be better if we didn't have a whole bunch of people running around who didn't have a hand because they stole and we cut off their hand. Or a bunch of people who didn't have an eye. I'd rather them all have their eyes than the eyes get cut out, now that I think about it. Right? You start to lessen that perspective. Even though when the initial thing, well, this is the first place we came to, eye for an eye. Good place to be. Until all of a sudden we have another option and we're like, nah, not so much. So, 5. No idea is made to last, save that of the divine oneness, the divine mind of God. Because the parameters that give them importance don't last either. So, the context is always changing. And this is the thing. The perpetual transmutation of energy, it's always changing because the conscious perspective on the thing is always changing. Things are happening. You're having thoughts. You're observing your thoughts. Your observations of your thoughts and of everything else are essentially having a long-term effect on all of existence. As you see and experience new things, you're picking up new stimuli, new information, and it's making you think, okay, maybe I want to change this in some fashion, right? Being an activist yesterday versus today. Yesterday, when I was in high school, which is now, let's say, 15 years ago or something like that, the liberal sort of thing that you see now where people are fighting for race and fighting for sexual equality, that didn't really exist. It had existed in my textbooks, like for me, as an idea in the 70s, and then that disappeared, and I was living in a world where I was very liberal, and I didn't see anybody saying anything about anything. And there was all these ridiculous racist laws and stupid stuff that was going on, and I used to talk about it all the time. Flash forward to now, you don't need me. In fact, the conversation has gotten ugly. It's gone all the way to the other side, whereas there was nobody having the conversation that I wanted to have yesterday about racism and inequality and sexual inequality and things like that. Now everybody wants to have that conversation. Not only do they want to have that conversation, they want to signal their virtues to others. They're not having the conversation based on morality the way I did. So much of the energetic conversation is being driven by popularity. It's popular to think this way and intellectually right? So now all of a sudden my perspective where I was like, man, somebody needs to do something, I don't have that perspective anymore. People are doing something. I think people might be doing too much. I'm glad that people are talking up. I'm glad that these things are coming to people's attention. Now it kind of seems like the whole system's running away with this new knowledge that it has, right? So this is the perpetual transmutation of energy and ideas. To wrap this up, I already spoke about, no, that's how I'm going to wrap it up. Okay. So to wrap this up, we're just going to talk about how it seems, how it feels, and how it is, okay? And this is the last thing for you guys, because this is about the vibrations and being able to properly engage your intellect on what is going on, okay? There is always sort of three things going on, which is how it seems, our senses. We are feeling things, smelling things, hearing things, all these things. So a black and white measurement of what this room is like, what the temperature was, how lit it was, how dim it was, whatever it is. That is how it seems. How it seems based on your tactile interpretation of it. How it feels, and I mean not like how it feels like this, emotionally, how it feels. The room was 70 degrees, but it felt cold. It was a cold room. It made me feel cold. I was small in it. How did you feel about the room? There's a factual interpretation of what the room is, at least one that you can sense. And then there's how you actually felt about it existentially. Finally, there's the truth of the room, which how it actually is, which your intuition always is aware of, because your intuition is the sum of God, of the universe. It's everything. So it's the part of you that has the, I feel this way about the room. Also, the room is actually this. And within the context of myself and the room, how it is this other thing. It's this combination of me within the environment experiencing the thing. So whenever you are trying to figure out your stuff, you got to recognize, okay, is this how I feel? Is this how it is? Or is this my intuition? Is this the larger perspective on the thing that is coming from that inner knowing of our oneness, of all these patterns, of all these things? Is this my small, what I can feel, what I can see at the moment place, which is very practical, I can see this or whatever? Or is this my reactionary, emotional mind of how I feel about these things, right? How you feel about the things, how everybody else feels about the things, it's important. But all has to be balanced with what's the factual thing, the factual information that you're dealing with. Anyway, that's the end of today's class, and I hope you'll join us next week, where we're going to be going over 8 inspired action, which will be really cool because we'll do that a bunch for attraction, and we'll tell that lovely joke about the guy drowning on his roof. And that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed us at home. If anybody has any final questions or anything, I'll just give it like 30 seconds. But that's all. Everybody can head out. I'll open up the door. And if there's any questions, I'll go live for remaining questions.